Folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. So I want to talk about something that I touched on in yesterday's video. It wasn't the central, theme of yesterday's video, but I did kind of mention it. Something I have been watching for the last 3 or 4 days in the news, and kind of in the back of my mind thinking that this was going to be the next big hurdle, the next big scare, the next big problem. And I think just in the last day or so, I feel in my mind that it's confirmed that that's kind of what they're probably going to be doing. And some of this is perceived threat and perceived fear, and some of it could be very realistic. It could very well happen this way. And what I want to talk about is the danger of this new variant causing so many people to get it, causing so many people to do a home isolation that it could shut the country down. This isn't just me saying this. There's been, in the last few days, a growing number of news articles, people on news programs talking about this. Even Dr. Fauci himself stated that the reason why the CDC lowered the number of isolation days from 10 to 5 was a big part because they were afraid that there would be so many infections that if all those people isolated for 10 days, there wouldn't be anyone to work. There wouldn't be anyone to keep the country running. And so they cut it in half, hoping that that would ease the blow of that. We're seeing more and more information out on this, and I'll get to that here in just a minute. Folks, you got to realize that, the part that no one's talking about, at least too much, they did in the beginning, but I'm not seeing a whole lot now, is that we're already dealing with a pretty fragile supply chain. I mean, in every aspect, all over, across the board, we talk about that all the time on this channel. There's other YouTube channels that do the same. So this is not new news that we're dealing with a very fragile supply chain. Some people are saying it's starting to show signs of improvement. In other areas, it's showing it to be even worse. So if you have a fragile supply chain, you have American businesses that are struggling. They're struggling from sales. They're struggling because of inflation. They're struggling because there's just not enough people to fill the positions to work. And then all of a sudden, this new variant causes a flood, a wave of infections, and all these workers have to isolate for even 5 days. That's massive. That's going to cause, at least potentially cause, some pretty severe havoc on our economy, and just on, as Dr. You-know-who said himself, keeping society just running, functioning, just the basic functions of society. We've seen the last 2 days, record number of infections each day. They're saying that, and I've seen a few people say this, that they predict that in the next coming weeks, 2 to 8 weeks, we could be seeing millions of cases each day. The fact is that this is probably just going to affect everyone. We all know that. Most of you just aren't really worried about it. The feedback that I'm getting, you're all like, well, it's mild. It's kind of like the common cold, and it's just going to be something that just, runs through the country and everyone gets it. That's probably true. But the fact is if businesses, governments, all these different, parts of our infrastructure are making people stay home and isolate for even 5 days, and millions of people could be getting this every day, that's going to be devastating. I want to show you a little audio or video clip of this guy. His name is Dr. Osterholm, I believe. He's the director for infectious disease research. This guy was on the President Joe Biden's, health scare task force and all this. So this guy is someone that's in the know, right? He's kind of connected. And here he is on, I think it's MSNBC, and he's saying that they're worried, and they're predicting a blizzard of infections, and it's going to be so bad that they're worried that parts of the country could shut down. He's worried that schools won't be able to open because there won't be anyone to fill the positions, and teachers and other staff. We saw last weekend, airlines canceled thousands of flights because of this. There's talk of big box stores and other companies not being able to, have enough employees to keep the doors open. So the possibility of them closing for, a time to try to catch up, and then just the general supply chain, the ports, the truck drivers, warehouse workers, everything in between. If we're talking millions and millions of people, and they're going to make all these people stay home for 5 days, this could be devastating. Watch this clip here from this Dr. Osterholm, or whatever, however he pronounces his name.
Over the next 3 to 4 weeks, we are going to see the number of cases in this country rise so dramatically that we're going to have a hard time keeping everyday life operating. Already we're seeing it in our healthcare settings, where if we could easily lose 10 to 20% of healthcare workers who are not available to work at all in a very difficult market already. We're seeing that right now in critical infrastructure areas where people just can't come to work. I worry very much that even with vaccinated teachers who still can have breakthrough infections, we're going to have a hard time staffing our schools in the next 3 to 4 weeks. So all of society is going to be pressured by this. It's healthcare. It's, already we're hearing about big box stores that are actually considering closing or have closed because they can't find enough workers to actually be at work. This is only going to get worse the next few weeks.
So you see here what he's saying, and I'm trying to, number one, I'm trying to be careful about what I say on here because they don't like it when I speak too truthful. But I'm also trying to have a pretty fair and balanced view on this. Is there a legitimate problem, or are they just trying to create a scare? I don't know. The thing is it doesn't even matter. What we've learned through all of this from the very beginning of this health crisis is, honestly, the real danger isn't necessarily what's, the reality, what's out there. The real danger is what the masses, the population perceive, and the reaction that they have to it. That's really become the real danger. And we're seeing that with how people are treating each other and how they're just going overboard in their reactions to their fellow neighbor and their fellow American. And here we're being told, and everyone is being told, to be terrified because the amount of case count is going to just absolutely skyrocket beyond your wildest dreams. And there's a very strong possibility that parts, if not all, of our economy is going to just come to a crashing halt for a little while because no one can go to work. And this is, I've already heard these problems in even local businesses. I know of several local businesses that have told me that, they are keeping their doors open by a thread. Like they can barely get anything done because so many people have to be home for so many days because they're ill. And they're just not able to even, do normal functions. I've heard of people that they're not able to get their supplies and their, shelves stocked, not necessarily because there aren't supplies, but because there's no one to bring them to them. There's no one to fill the shelves, no one to do the deliveries because they, people are sick or because people, they just need help. This is a growing problem. It's already a bad problem. And with what we're seeing that could very likely happen in the next coming weeks, it's going to explode. There's the other part of this, and this is definitely more on the conspiracy side, is the possibility that they already know that the supply chain is collapsing. And is this setting the stage for an excuse of when it all comes crashing down, when it all comes to a halt, that they can say, well, it's because everyone's got this thing and that's what's going on. I don't know. But what I do know is that when we've seen, there's been a kind of a history over the last couple of years that when they get on TV and they get on the news shows and they get online and they start seeing the same narrative repeated over and over again, it's a pretty good bet that something's going to come of it. And that's what's happening right now. Just in the last couple of days, we've seen several people, there's been news articles kind of pushing this narrative that it's about to get really bad, not necessarily because the risk from the illness, but it's about to get bad because businesses aren't going to be able to keep their doors open. Schools, governments, hospitals, hospital workers, there'll be a shortage of them. They won't be able to take care of people because there's no one that can work, no one that can fly planes, no one that can drive trucks, no one that can unload and load trucks, load ships, unload ships, work farms, work factories. This is a problem that I see in the making. And, I'm not on here trying to scare everyone, but I do want to kind of give you that warning so that you can kind of brace yourselves, get prepared for it. I don't know how bad it's going to be. I think we should kind of prepare for the worst, hope for the best, prepare for the worst, and we'll probably end up somewhere in between. And that's usually how things happen. But I think that this is definitely going to be one of them. There's been articles for weeks now on worker shortages. I talked about that yesterday quite a bit. And I've said it, and it's true. It's happening all over, not just in big cities, even out here in my rural area. I know of several businesses that are struggling because they can't get any employees. Either the ones that they have are sick, or they just can't get anyone hired. And so think of how bad that's going to be in a few weeks when the infection rates, which are now just under 500,000, could be several million a day. And if people are made to stay home, it could be bad. There's a lot of other things about this that could be bad. I'm not going to go into in this video, but there's definitely, I'm sure, going to be some blame thrown because of this, and we know where that's probably going to end up also. So folks, bottom line is you need to get prepared. If you can. I understand a lot of you just went through holidays, maybe money's tight, I don't know. But I would certainly be stocking up. Get yourselves ready. There's winter here, even though for where I'm at right now, it's been pretty nice. They're calling for this weekend for it to finally come in and settle in, and there's some forecasts in some areas of the country that are pretty severe over the next few days when it comes to winter. And if that lingers, and if we start having some colder weather, and then more infections and more businesses shutting down, or at least, having a difficulty staying open and keeping the shelves stocked, well, we're looking at some pretty, serious problems that could happen in the next probably 8 weeks or so. So continue to prepare, folks. We've all been talking about the fact that 2022, this new year rolling around, is probably going to be worse, and it's definitely looking like that's the case. So get your houses in order. Prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually, because it does look like this blizzard, this storm is upon us, and that is their words. So get yourselves ready for it. All right, folks, thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.